Hi folks, welcome to Bros Before Foes. I'm Caine, and today I'm going to go over my impressions on Siegecraft Commander by indie developer Blowfish Studios. So, quick high-level overview. I didn't particularly care for this one. The art direction is decent and the premise is kind of interesting, but it's hampered by too many problems with the execution of the gameplay that prevents me from giving a solid recommendation. The main mechanic of Siegecraft Commander is to expand out from your base using the system of interlocked towers that you build by flinging them across the map. Your keep launches expansion outposts, and these outposts can launch either more outposts or specialty buildings like an armory or library. These specialty buildings in turn can launch other buildings, like barracks to produce troops or a tower that generates some type of shield. Killing an outpost kills every turret and sub-building that is linked to that outpost and any further outposts in the chain. The launching mechanic reminds me heavily of how Angry Birds does its launching of the little flightless birds, except that you can choose the direction in 360 degrees, not something we often see in a strategy game. So, let's go over what this game did right and where it went wrong. Let's start with the good. The overall presentation of the game is very pleasing. From the shape of the towers, to the sound effects, to the music, everything comes together fairly well. The visuals are fairly simple and also convey a large amount of information for the player with a minimal amount of screen real estate being used for a user interface. The concept of building your base via interconnected walls and outposts is relatively novel, at least for me anyway. Definitely a point in the game's favor for originality. There is a decent variety in the types of towers, complete with a tech tree. Keep in mind that there is no research in the game, only what towers that you have available, and if you have certain types of crystals available on the map. Certain towers require a certain crystal, or you need both crystals. Pretty simple. You have a single player mode with 2 campaigns, and 2 multiplayer modes. One for turn-based gameplay, one for the real time. Each of the multiplayer modes comes with its own online matchmaking, or you can have a local LAN option. So, with all that good, where did this game go bad? And I'm going to sum it up for you in one word: execution. The premise is interesting and I can see what it's trying to do, but how the gameplay plays out is fairly frustrating and quite frankly feels like a pain in the ass. First, the walls going in between your towers cannot intersect with any other walls. This requires you to plan ahead to ensure that you don't cut yourself off from further advancement by placing other turrets or buildings in your path. This in itself would be a minor issue if you could simply delete the buildings in your way, but you can't. There's no delete or a remove feature to tear down unwanted buildings. Your only recourse is to take an outpost and shoot at the offending building to get rid of it. Given the imprecise nature of this, it's a pain in the ass. Going along with walls, let's go over your soldiers. Your little dudes, your foot sloggers, whatever. You cannot control them, and they are slow as hell. More importantly, you cannot go over or around any walls with them, both yours or the enemy. So if you have poor placement of your outposts, you could inadvertently lock out soldiers or force them to take a long route across the map. In short, these guys spawn at the barracks, head towards whatever enemy they want, and there is nothing you can do about it save for placing where they will spawn from. Nor can you prioritize certain barracks to train troops over other ones that are no longer relevant. Virtually all of your turrets and towers do not shoot on their own. You have to manually use them. So no matter how large your base actually becomes, you are really only using one turret at a time. And if you're building an army, you're not defending or advancing. Even some of the few controllable units, if you can call them that, like a Zeppelin, still requires you to manually fire shots at the enemy. There are a few exceptions to this, but these exceptions mainly help prevent incoming damage, anti-air capabilities, or anti-troop capabilities. It's not going to push you forward, but it will keep the enemy off your back while you keep futzing with your tower placement. Everything that you do has a cooldown. Basic things such as launching an outpost, 3 seconds. But if you want to say place a barracks, well, that's like 30 seconds. Oh, and if you overshot the barracks and it got destroyed because it can't be placed there, too bad. You still need to wait 30 seconds to try again. Oh, and that's not exactly just say 30 seconds for that particular building to launch the barracks. it's a 30-second lockout for that particular building to do anything. Even if it's little abilities that only have a 3-second cooldown, doesn't matter. A lot of your turrets that auto-shoot, your anti-air capabilities that I mentioned earlier, they have about a 20 to 30 second cooldown between each shot. The mechanic of launching your buildings and explosive barrels in itself, while unique, I will still give it that, it gets tedious incredibly fast. The reason being, virtually everything that you do is centered on it, so you're going to be doing this a lot, over and over and over again, every level, all the time. It's a shame that there's no way to quickly and efficiently simply just redo what your last shot was, or at the very least set it up so that way you can aim and shoot again very quickly at, say, a single button press. Now let's say like you're shooting an enemy tower. In between each shot, you must select the tower again, select the explosive barrels again, reposition the angle on how much power you want to apply to that shot, and then you let loose. Now do it all over again. Now there are some keyboard shortcuts that I stumbled on since the game doesn't tell you any keyboard shortcuts, but you still need to go through the same motions over and over and over, and you will be going through them a lot. So far, what I have been talking about is the real-time strategy portion of the game. For the turn-based part, I felt the game honestly was kinda worse. Barracks pumping out guys that just don't move, most likely a bug, but that's what I observed. And you can only fire one turret per turn, and your defensive turrets typically have a 2-turn cooldown. If anything, it took all the issues that I had with the real-time portion and just simply made it more boring. The story in the campaigns is nothing to write home about. One faction wants treasure and killing lizard people, and the other one is about lizard people killing other lizard people. Quite honest, I didn't get too far in the latter because at that point I really just didn't care anymore and I just wanted to stop playing. Lastly, the multiplayer modes. Great that you have them, but it takes forever to get a game through the auto matchmaking, and that kind of kills the pacing. It took roughly 15 minutes for me to find my first real game, and even then, it simply just didn't bring a better experience over simply fighting the AI. Overall, the game has a neat premise, but a very flawed execution. Now, the game is cheap, being an indie game, and it's around $20. But even at that price, I don't really recommend it unless you're going to get it heavily discounted. And even with that discount, let's face it, there are other games that will do better for the same amount of money. This is Caine with Bros Before Foes. I hope you enjoyed this first impressions. If you have any comments or you would like to like and subscribe, please feel free to do so. You have a good one.